Hello, old friend. Good to see you again. We're going to do something new again today and enter into the stream of a specific gene key. Before I do, I just want to remind you that all of these keys are encoded within one another. And so even though you might not have this particular gene key in your hologenetic profile, you absolutely will experience it in your life, and you have it encoded within your DNA, and it interacts and reacts with all of the other gene keys. And so spending time contemplating this is going to lead to breakthroughs in the other areas of your profile. And as we get started, I'm coming off of a contemplation this morning of the 25th gene key, which is constriction, acceptance, and universal love. And it was just so clear to me how the shadow of constriction ties so tightly to this shadow that we're going to talk about today, the 32nd shadow of failure. There's just this energy in this world that leaves us tight and worried. And I just wanted to mention that so that you can see the resonance between these keys, so that you understand that although you might not have it, it is absolutely applicable to you. So let's enter into this 32nd gene key together, and I just want to take a moment to feel its vibration. I think that's an important piece here, and this might sound esoteric or a woo-woo to some of you, and that's okay. But do me a favor and just, if you feel comfortable, close your eyes. If not, just a soft gaze. And I want you to take a big inhale in, a big exhale out. And I just want you to put your awareness into your belly. And I want you to feel for some fear, for some anxiety, for some tightness. And we all have it. Sometimes we think that something's wrong with us when we have that feeling, but that is part of being human. And that feeling is what drives our evolution. It's what reminds us to keep looking. And ultimately, what reminds us to just let go. So one more big breath in, and a big exhale, and slowly open your eyes. And let's talk about the 32nd shadow of failure. And failure can be looked at in many different ways. There's individual failure, which is what we often think about. So that's failing a test, or failing to follow a diet, or a business failing. Then we have societal failure, which is collective failure. That is war or poverty, right? Things that we haven't been able to raise our frequency high enough to solve quite yet. And at a much deeper level than both of those things is the failure to remain alive, the failure to exist, the feeling that someone's going to turn the lights off and that's it, game over. And we have a hard time accepting that feeling. And that fear causes an underlying panic. It causes this sensation that something is wrong. We need to scramble to fix everything in our lives. We need to fight for control. And panic is a word that Richard Rudd, the founder of the Gene Keys, uses in the audio of the 32nd Gene Key. And it's not a word that I originally would think of in the way that he's using it. I think of panic as this like really intense energy, this holy crap, something has gone really, really wrong and I'm freaking out. But that's not what the panic is that I'm talking about here. Instead, it's this sort of low-lying hum that's underneath everything that you do. And it's a distrust. It's a feeling that it's not going to be okay and that it's all on your shoulders. How can we get to the other side of that panic? We just need to take time with things. We need to be patient. We need to remember that that panic is one of the driving forces of our evolution. We seek to avoid failure even though that's the thing that pushes us to grow. And even though that failure, if it does force us to grow, is no failure at all. And at a certain point, we realize that the successes that we have in our life at least the outward ones, the getting the big job, making $10 million, they bring us nothing of actual importance. And they do nothing to alleviate that panic. And so therefore, there's only one true failure in life. And that is the failure to live a beautiful life. The failure to trust, the failure to remember, the failure to live in line with your purpose. A beautiful life is not seeing things in terms of success and failure. So I want to take you back and think about the times of our ancestors hunting, living in the woods, on the desert, on the Great Plains. Being cast out or being unable to find food meant that we would die. And now that same fear is still within us. We still feel that in our DNA, but luckily for most of us, we're past that point in our evolution. And so we cast that fear onto something entirely different. The amount of money that we have in our bank account determines if we feel safe to do the things that we actually want to do. We put so much pressure on how much money we have, and it means nothing for our physical safety. It's simply the current hiding place for this deep, deep-seated fear of failure. And so getting ourselves outside of this duality of success and failure is how we stop that intense suffering that we feel. It's important to know that the fear of failure doesn't go away, not until we've reached a acidic state, not until we're an enlightened being. But at the gift level, we make a choice not to react to that fear, not to engage with it, to see it for what it is. Failure keeps us thinking only about ourselves, and it stops us from sharing with the world. What if I need that thing later? What if I need that resource? That's how we think when we're stuck in this fear of failure. Then there's another form of failure entirely, which is failure in relationships. And I just want you to remember that dharma and karma dictate everything that we see in this world. And sometimes things are meant to come to an end, and that is not a failure. This 32nd gene key ties to the 28th gene key in the ring of illusion, which is seeing through the Maya, seeing through this duality that we put ourselves in. Seeing ultimately that failure is an illusion, it's in your mind. The 32nd gift is preservation, which is about deciding what is important, what is vital in your life, and moving towards that thing instead of running away from that underlying sense of panic. To do that, you have to see outside of yourself. You have to remember that what you were trying to preserve all along by running from that fear was your personality. And that thing is not real. I'm not Jason Cohen. I'm not a studier of the gene keys. I'm not a gym owner. I'm not a dad. I am all of those things and none of them. And once we realize that that personality isn't real, we realize that it can't be preserved in the first place. By trying to preserve all of these things, we only preserve our suffering. And that ends when the illusion of the self cracks. If you have the 32nd gene key in your life, the world will always take you to points of the shattering of this self. And like the Matrix, you're going to decide which pill do you want to take. Are you going to take the red pill or are you going to take the blue pill? Do you want to go back into your illusions? Do you want to continue to preserve that personality, or is it time to let go and trust so that you can walk into this gift of preservation, which is all about preserving life, not preserving self? And once we see that, a ton of energy opens up for us. because we can preserve the truly important stuff, the universal truths that don't go anywhere ever, that stay forever, that you are, instead of that personality that comes and goes and won't stop. So what is essential to you? What is worth preserving? Is it love? Is it awakening? Is it truth? Is it peace? Flip through the gene keys and pick a city. There is nothing better than spending your life preserving something like that for your kids and your kids' kids, or just the future generations. That's how we're sitting here right now. Along with the ability to let go of that fear comes a wisdom for investment. So now that I am not constantly worried all the time, I can focus my energy and decide where is a good place for me to have intention and to do work in the world right now. This gift is about balancing that which needs to die with that which can be brought forward or carried forth from a letting go or from a death. What can be taken forward and used as the rootstock to graft on the new emerging energy in your life? Imagine the possibilities if we can graft our new technology onto the rhythms of nature instead of working to make nature do our bidding. That is a recipe for veneration. The 32nd city is veneration, which is what's left over when all of the fear is burned from your DNA by transmuting your karma over many lifetimes. It's all about seeing the great chain of life and understanding where you fall in that chain. For eons before you, avatars have worked to preserve the knowledge and wisdom and inner workings of the universe. And we stand on their shoulders in the great chain to continue that evolution for those that come after us. But that wisdom is just using us. We are just the form that it passes through. You begin to mutate that wisdom as it mutates you and you share it with the world. As we stand on the shoulders of those who came before us, there are those above us that are reaching down to help and lift us up. This divine grace that's all around us all the time. They're reaching down to pull us up to continue this inevitable evolution of Gaia, our inevitable reunion into one. And further down the chain, there are beings who are looking up at you, waiting for you to reach down and offer that same hand. It's really important to recognize you're not better or worse than anyone else on this living chain. Veneration is just a deep understanding of the inner workings of the universe. And it's an unfathomable love and admiration of and appreciation of all of it, regardless of up or down the chain. Those are just words that I have to use. Your fractal lineage provides you with the wisdom of the past up until this point. And the 32nd city aligns us with that wisdom and allows us to do our part in continuing its evolution. Even the tiniest ant gives you a boost in that mission. And because of this, you come into deep respect for all sentient life that is on this planet. Everything has its place and everything is furthering our evolution, driving us closer to coming home. So there you have it, the 32nd gene key, which for me is about the death of money and trusting that you're supported and safe and making the choice to do what is calling to you so that you can stop running from what you don't want, which leaves us slaves to this illusion. Instead, we can honor what has come before us and what will come after us and trust that the wisdom, the knowledge, the love is going to be there. It has been all along, and it will continue to be. open your heart to that veneration of the great chain and find your place in it.